how can I manage my anxiety around things I can't control? So we did this a little bit in episode 12, if you want to refer back to that, but I want to do it a little bit more generally now. So, what's going on in our nervous system? Well, again, our brains are wired for safety, not happiness, right? And so for our brains, safety equals predictability. Well, if I can't control it, then I can't predict it, and then I am in danger. And my brain is constantly scanning the world, right? And particularly in this, when we get that danger signal, our brain's trying to solve the unsolvable. Something we can't control by definition is not a problem we can solve. It's not our problem. It's not within our control. That's why things beyond our control create so much more anxiety than the things within our control. And so what'll happen is we're spiraling, we're overthinking, our brain's trying to do anything to relieve the discomfort of an unpredictable situation. Right. And then we'll go into a couple responses. We can go into a fight response, right? Where we're having interpersonal things, we're trying to get control of something, or we turn that internally and we invite in, the shoulda, coulda, woulda. The inner critic starts going at us, right? We might go into a flight response where we're going into perfectionist overwork, right? Where we're trying to control everything. Well, if I know all the variables, if I know everything that could possibly go wrong, then even though I can't control the outcome, somehow I'm in control because I know all the things, right? Or you go into a freeze response where you're just overwhelmed, right? Like, I can't control this, right? And I think, certainly in this political climate, this feeling of overwhelm and then just stopping and shutting down is becoming very, very common, right? But this can happen even, if you're trying to think about, like, you've got someone that you're working with on a project at work and they're blocking you all the time, right? And you're thinking, but like, my name is on this thing and I can't get, a school project at school, right? Where the person just isn't doing their part, right? And you think, well, I have to control it. Or if you're in marketing and you're handing things off to sales and you're measured by like pipeline, but sales isn't doing their thing, right? You're going to feel like I'm not in control. And all of these things are going to happen where you're spiraling. So, how does our socialization play into this? For people socialized as women, we are conditioned to believe that we're responsible for comfort. And so that if there's discomfort, ours or someone else's, that we're at fault or somehow we're failing, like we're missing something, we're not doing it right. And then we're also taught that the problems are ours to fix, right? And so we're trying to anticipate the problems and fix them. And then you go into like hyper managing everything and everyone around you because you think all these things have to be, I can't relax until all these other people do exactly what I want them to do, which of course they're not going to, which means you never get to relax. Or we have, an illusion of control, right? That if we plan more, or we worry more, or we're more perfect, or we're more whatever, or less whatever, that somehow we can actually control the uncontrollable. In this, I really want to make the point that anxiety doesn't mean that something's wrong. It's just a check engine light. Anxiety is a very normal response to uncertainty. And it's not something that has to be fixed. We can just be anxious without thinking we have to go fix it. It's our socialization that gives us that illusion of control, that makes us feel responsible for comfort, that makes us think we have to anticipate problems and fix them. Like, in the world right now, there are things that are happening that are very uncertain that are absolutely going to create anxiety, whether that's going on politically, whether you work in tech, and there's a lot of, macro things at play that you absolutely have no control over as an individual. All of those are things that will create anxiety. Anxiety is just a normal human emotion, and it's a natural response to uncertain situations. So, what kind of feelings come up when we're in this kind of, feeling like we're not in control? So fear is the driving force in this too, right? Like we were talking about in being indecisive, this is the same thing. But the fear is telling us that we have to figure it out. If we could figure it out, then we could feel safe, or we could feel calm, or we could just relax for a minute. And then we feel frustrated when, of course, we can't because we're trying to control things that are beyond our control. Or we feel helpless, right? Because there's actually nothing that can be done, but there is something to be done. We can show up for ourselves. I'm going to give you tips on how to do that in just a second. And then, of course, we again feel so exhausted from all the trying, from all the fear and frustration and helplessness and the constant trying to solve for something that's not solvable. So, how does this make total sense? Well, of course, we obsessively try to solve because our brain thinks that there's a solution and that we're actually in physical mortal peril if we don't figure it out. Like our brains are not wired for the complexity and nuance of modern society. It's wired to keep us from freezing to death, starving to death, or getting eaten by a lion. That's it. And then, of course, we seek relief in scrolling, in procrastinating, in overwork, right? We just need to solve it. Of course, we're going to do those things. Of course, we're constantly seeking reassurance that it's going to be okay. If anxiety is wrong, if we're not supposed to feel it, if this discomfort is something that has to be solved, right? Then we're just looking for a way or something or someone that can let us believe that it's going to be okay. But of course, that can't come externally. We're going to get into that in a sec. And then, of course, we don't take actions on what we can control because all of our energy is going towards trying to solve the unsolvable problem. So, what happens when all of this predictable things? Here's how our nervous system is influenced by our socialization. And of course, we see these sorts of things, right? But here are the outcomes that happen. We get more and more anxiety, right? The more we try to solve, the worse it gets. And then like the more we try to solve, the more we can't do it, then the worse it gets, right? And it just, you can like, I go into, we all go into spirals, right? Of like, no, but it has to be solved, but it can't be solved. And what am I going to do? Right. And you either shut down or lash out or whatever it's going to be, right? Also, we start looking at burnout and exhaustion, right? Leading to less ability to problem solve of the things that we can actually control, an inability to even see what is within our control. And then avoidance, right? We're trying to escape the feeling of anxiety and discomfort, but it reinforces this idea that maybe underneath that we can't handle it or that it's wrong, right? By trying to escape it rather than being like anxiety is a normal human emotion that's part of the human experience. I can expect to feel anxiety. It's just a check engine light. It doesn't mean anything has gone horribly wrong, right? Anxiety is a natural response to uncertainty. And so, and thinking about like, if anxiety doesn't have to be fixed, if it's just a natural part, then how do I stop trying to solve, right? So here's my techniques. So if you are spinning, there's kind of two grounding techniques. So one, I want you to think about like the physiological response is actually only 60 to 90 seconds, like the electrical current in our body that comes from thinking a thought that makes us feel anxious, and then that physiological response, as long as we don't start spinning, right? But if you're already spinning, I suggest doing two things. Like one, just get back into your body, find a way to get back into your body. Things I love to do are just like feel my fingers on the keyboard or my feet on the floor or how, the whatever I'm sitting in feels against my body, what my eyelashes feel like on my eyelids, like whatever it is to get you back in your body and out of this spinning and thing, because that's the first thing you need. You have to calm your nervous system just a little bit. Another thing I really love to try is validating the feelings that you're having, right? Closing your eyes and being like, You are safe. Of course, you feel anxious about that. Of course, you do. It makes total sense. A normal human reaction. Like, this is just anxiety. And it makes sense that I would feel anxiety right now. Right. And just validate your feelings the way you would for a friend or the way you would for an upset child. Right. Just be very gentle. And that will also take the temperature down with your nervous system. Okay. And then how do we take back control? Because what we want is control. We are in 100% control of how we show up, how we treat ourselves, how we treat others, right? What do I want to do to fortify myself in this moment? How do I want to show up? How do I want to create safety? How do I want to create comfort, right? Through the things that I can control. So one thing, oh, Amy, I didn't warn you, but if y'all want to go to the website, it's under free guides or something, but there's what is it? How to navigate high stakes interactions like a boss. This is great. Like, it's a little workbook. It'll take you like 20 minutes, but it'll really show you and it'll walk you through, but it'll give you the ability to see what you can manage in any given situation and create the results that you want for the things that are within your control. So, and then I want you to remind yourself, I am not in control of how other people treat me, what they believe, or what they do. And so all of the energy that I'm putting towards that is energy I'm not putting towards supporting myself in this situation. So one part that I think is really helpful, especially in these things, is it's like, this is the part where whatever happens, right? This is the part where I freak out because people are being harmed in the world, right? This is the part where I freak out because I'm not in control of whether sales converts the leads that I hand off. This is the part where this is the part where I freak out that, someone changed my plan on me, right? Whatever those things, and then also, this is the part where this person does this thing. They always do it. I can expect it. But like, when you start thinking about these things, it'll just give you enough space so that your nervous system isn't completely activated as you're trying to manage the uncertainty. But remember, your brain is wired for safety, for keeping you alive, not for happiness. If we listen to all of the anxiety that our brain gives us, we would never accomplish, we would never get to grow and experience things, right? We would never fall in love. We would never, right? Like, because these things are uncertain, they're inherently uncertain. And the anxiety is just a natural part of that whole evolution. Okay.